On July 8, 2003, a Little Caesars cashier in San Jose, California answered a call that would haunt her forever. A young girl, barely able to hold back her tears, spelled out her address letter by letter, her voice trembling with fear. Unbeknownst to the cashier, this was no ordinary call. The girl had been kidnapped, forced by her abductor into this desperate plea for help. Jeannette Tamayo committed every detail to memory, just as she had with the car's movements 2 days earlier. She held on to these fragments of information, hoping that if escape ever came, she would have the ammunition to bring her captor down. After days trapped in captivity, this fragile call was her only link to the outside world. The kidnapper descended the stairs, returned with the pizza, and stood silently, clutching the box. In his hand, he held a flyer, her own photo, stamped with the word missing. His chilling words cut through the silence. "I have to get rid of you tonight." 9-year-old Jeannette Tamayo had endured abduction, assault, and bondage. By the time law enforcement arrived, she was already lost to the darkness imposed by her captor. Jeannette was taken from her home shortly after school. Police later retrieved grainy security footage from a nearby camera, but its poor quality rendered it ineffective, leaving investigators grasping at shadows. With no leads and days passing without progress, no Amber Alert issued statewide, Jeannette's resolve hardened. Fear transformed into fierce determination. She vowed to fight for her survival. In the bustling heart of Silicon Valley, 9-year-old Jeannette stepped off the school bus. Approaching her house, she noticed the screen door was ajar, an unusual sight she barely registered, assuming her mother had returned early. Inside, the scene turned ominous. Her bedroom window shattered, glass strewn across the floor. An instinctive chill ran through her as she retreated, reaching for the phone only to discover the cable cut. Before comprehension could set in, a knock echoed from the door. Jeannette turned to find a stranger lurking behind the screen. Fear and confusion gripped her as she hesitated, reluctantly opening the barrier. The man's probing questions concealed a sinister intent. He peered inside, searching for others. Jeannette's unease deepened. She edged the sliding door closed, sensing the malignant presence pressing in. Suddenly, his hand blocked her escape. With a swift, brutal motion, he slashed her wrist, seized her, and dragged her to her brother's room. The nightmare had just begun. He threw her onto the bed and stripped her of her pants. Out of respect for Jeannette's ordeal, the most harrowing details remain unspoken. When finished, the attacker bound her hands and legs, shackling her like prey. He carried her to his car, parked in the garage. Attempting to escape, he struggled to open the door fully before another vehicle arrived. Through the narrow gap, Jeannette spotted her mother's car pulling up. Her brother Paul, only 15, crawled under the barely opened garage door. Urging him to flee, Jeannette's desperate plea was met with defiance. Paul chose to confront the attacker, armed with nothing but a screwdriver. Paul lunged, but the man skillfully disarmed him, unleashing a brutal barrage of punches. Jeannette, restrained and helpless, could only watch in horror as her brother was dragged inside. Inside, they encountered Rosalia, Jeannette's mother. She fought fiercely, breaking the attacker's hold on Paul. In a desperate bid, Paul grabbed a frying pan from the kitchen to defend them. Once again, the attacker overpowered Paul, turning the pan against Rosalia. She was struck repeatedly until she collapsed, her screams fading into an eerie silence. Jeannette heard her mother's cries, then a haunting quiet. She saw the man retreat to his car, blood smeared across his face. Fear gripped her as she questioned if her family was still alive. When she asked if he had killed them, the man only laughed. A cruel and chilling sound. Tears streamed down Jeannette's face as dread consumed her, her loved one's fate unknown, perhaps already sealed. The kidnapper sped away recklessly, tearing through neighbors' yards. Fighting against her restraints, Jeannette turned for a final glimpse of her home before the corner swallowed her view. To her relief, she caught sight of Rosalia stumbling behind the car, face battered, bloodied, but alive. Not far behind, her brother Paul limped painfully toward strangers, waving and shouting for help. Paul's desperate cries pierced the chaos as bystanders rushed to his aid. The family's survival hung by a fragile thread amid the violent storm that had engulfed their lives. As the car disappeared around the corner, Jeannette screamed, pounding the window to catch passing drivers' attention. Her attacker's fury erupted instantly. Grabbing the screwdriver from earlier, he struck her twice before she scrambled out of reach. Lying back, eyes fixed on the car ceiling, Jeannette faced a terrifying thought. She might not survive this nightmare. Back at the house, police arrived to find Rosalia refusing medical aid, desperate to relay the horror she had witnessed. Her worsening condition and panic forced officers to secure her and her son before rushing them to the hospital. With both mother and son hospitalized, the only witnesses capable of shedding light on the crime were now out of reach. Investigators were left with scant clues and a crime scene soaked in violence. Rosalia's anguished declaration echoed. Protecting her children was all that mattered, no matter the cost. But with her and Paul incapacitated, the police faced an uphill battle to piece together what had happened. Forensic teams collected samples while bloodhounds and handlers were deployed swiftly. Despite their efforts, the trail to Jeannette remained frustratingly cold, deepening the shadow surrounding her disappearance. Neither Jeannette Tamayo nor her assailant sustained injuries during the initial attack. Amid the chaos, a crucial detail caught the investigators' attention, a security camera positioned in a neighbor's driveway. By meticulously reviewing the footage from the previous hour, they began to piece together a tentative timeline. The video revealed that 30 minutes before Jeannette arrived, her attacker shattered her bedroom window and broke into the house. Afterward, he retreated to his car, patiently awaiting her arrival. Once she came home, he followed her, knocked on the door, and then assaulted her inside her bedroom for nearly half an hour. The harrowing ordeal moved to the garage shortly after. Meanwhile, Paul and Rosalia, Jeannette's brother and mother, arrived at the scene. In the final moments of the recording, their desperate screams for help and frantic calls to the police echoed clearly. Detective Heather Randall focused on a critical moment when the attacker's car appeared directly in front of the camera. California law requires a name, license plate, or phone number linked to the suspect before issuing a statewide Amber Alert. It was a cruel irony. The evidence was right there, tantalizingly close, yet the video clarity fell just short of the legal threshold. Faced with this obstacle, Randall turned to the media, hoping public awareness would ignite a grassroots search despite the absence of an official Amber Alert. With her department's support, helicopters equipped with loudspeakers soared over San Jose, broadcasting Jeannette's name repeatedly. Press conferences multiplied, saturating the city with her image and story, mobilizing citizens to keep watch. This campaign unleashed 1,000 additional pairs of eyes onto the streets. They understood the urgency of flooding the public with information. Every flyer, every mention could be the key to finding Jeannette Tamayo. Meanwhile, trapped in captivity, Jeannette mentally mapped every turn and landmark during their brief drive, clinging to hope that she might find a way home if she escaped. Suddenly, the car halted at the garage of a large white house. Her captor carried her inside and ascended to the second floor. There, behind a locked door, he revealed a cramped room. Its meager furnishings included a TV, a small window, a bed, and a bathroom. He violently threw her to the floor, his face twisted with menace. After each attack, he handcuffed her wrist to the shower head, running water over her as he left her isolated. The shower became her only refuge during these brutal intervals. Jeannette later recounted how the shower was her sanctuary, the only place where the abuser refrained from further harm. Though the tears came, it was her moment of fragile safety. Back in San Jose, while the Tamayo family gathered around Rosalia, the police enlisted relatives to join the public appeal for Jeannette's safe return. That morning, Jeannette found strength from a broadcast. Her cousin's voice came through the news, urging her to stay strong and never give up. Those words sparked a flicker of hope deep within her, fueling her resolve to fight for survival at all costs. Facing her second day in captivity, Jeannette crafted a plan. Recognizing the peril to her life, she decided to engage her captor in conversation to gain his trust. She cautiously asked him where he was from. For the first time since the kidnapping, he responded with a smile, an unsettling, dubious expression that filled Jeannette with revulsion. In that moment, she longed to retaliate violently, but instead she buried her disgust and returned his smile, projecting innocence. She then requested a glass of water. Her captor handcuffed her and, for the first time, left her alone in the room while fetching the water downstairs. Alone, Jeannette's fingers began to explore the mechanism of the handcuffs. She discovered a small button and latch that controlled the lock, a mechanical release that required no key. This revelation sparked a surge of cautious hope. Now, freed from her restraints, Jeannette had mere moments to act. She gathered anything that might serve as evidence: her captor's watch, a clay turtle from a small pile of toys, and even her own underwear. Recalling crime shows like CSI and Law and Order, She hoped these items could link her attacker to the crime, ensuring he would face justice if she didn't survive. Her makeshift evidence collection was interrupted by the heavy footsteps of her captor ascending the stairs. She hastily returned the handcuffs and slipped back onto the bed, heart pounding. When the door opened, he stared at her silently. In her mind, she prayed he would not search her, as she carried the precious items that could unravel his identity. By the third day, Jeannette's family was gripped by despair over the stagnant investigation. Despite Detective Randall's relentless efforts, the police had yet to uncover any leads to her whereabouts. When authorities informed Rosalia that chances of finding kidnapped children dropped sharply after 48 hours, she refused to accept the grim prognosis. Her anguish was raw and unyielding. She voiced her desperate fear that her daughter might never return. The pain of those endless hours without Jeannette overwhelmed her. Rosalia's screams echoed her heartbreak, her anguish rooted in the haunting thought that she had failed to protect her child. Meanwhile, Jeannette had grown numb to the physical torment. Her survival depended on remaining strong and continuing to manipulate her captor. Her efforts began to bear fruit when the man asked if she was hungry. She played along, answering affirmatively. When he returned, a sinister smile played across his lips. He placed a pizza box on the floor, atop which lay a missing person flyer bearing Jeannette's face. Then, with cold finality, he warned her that tonight would be the night he would get rid of her. Once the door clicked shut behind him, Jeannette wasted no time. She discarded the pizza and swiftly gathered every shred of evidence she could find. Carefully, she concealed the items inside the pizza box and slid it under the bed, hiding her lifeline in plain sight. Her captor returned with a pillow, pressing it forcefully over her face. Gasping for air, Jeannette fought to turn her head to the side, but his grip was unyielding. As oxygen deprivation tightened its grip, a surge of adrenaline ignited within her, fueling a desperate final effort. With one last burst of strength, she managed to shift her face just enough to snatch a breath of air. Moments later, her kidnapper withdrew the pillow, coldly offering, "Do you want to take a shower?" Emerging from the shower, Jeannette quickly dressed, fingers brushing the pockets where she had stashed her precious evidence. Suddenly, loud knocking resonated from downstairs. She wanted to scream, but before she could, her kidnapper lunged, covering her mouth with his hands. Fearful he might strike again, she swallowed her terror and remained silent, waiting for the visitor to leave. Time stretched as they sat together in tense silence. Once the house fell quiet, he dragged her down to the garage, engulfed in darkness. Forcing her into his car, he shackled her wrists anew and began a long, harrowing drive. Throughout the journey, Jeannette's cries and screams filled the vehicle. Midway through, she gathered herself, tears still flowing, whispering to herself that she had done the best she could. In that moment, she braced for the possibility of death, steeling her mind against despair. Yet she had not surrendered. With grim determination, she focused on memorizing every turn along the way, though the journey stretched over 30 minutes, far longer and more confusing than before. Eventually, the car pulled into a neon-lit parking lot outside a liquor store near the highway. As the engine stopped, her captor seized her by the hair. Looking around in disbelief, she asked where they were. He coldly declared he was letting her go. Then, clutching her by the back of her head, he pulled her close, issuing a chilling warning. He threatened that if she ever revealed his identity or spoke of what he had done, he would hunt her down and kill both her and her family. As he vanished into the night, Jeannette ran toward the liquor store, overwhelmed by disbelief and relief. A flood of emotions crashed over her as she faced the cashier. The man, recognizing her from television, asked if she was okay. Without hesitation, the cashier handed her the phone. When he realized her distress, he quickly took it back and dialed 911 himself. Jeannette pleaded to use the phone, and the man complied. Panicked and trembling, she struggled to dial the emergency number. Meanwhile, the San Jose police received word that Jeannette had been found in East Palo Alto and rushed to her side. Detective Heather Randall felt a surge of relief upon seeing Jeannette alive. Yet, beneath that joy lay urgency. The need to act swiftly to capture the perpetrator weighed heavily. Approaching Jeannette, Randall introduced herself as an ally. Without hesitation, Jeannette revealed the evidence she carried. Small toys, her underwear, the kidnapper's watch, and other critical items. Impressed by Jeannette's sharpness, Randall inquired if there was more. Jeannette requested paper and proceeded to sketch the house, jot down fragments of the address, the exact phone number, and every detail etched into her memory. Recognizing the significance, Randall posed a decisive question. Could Jeannette lead them to the house? With quiet confidence, Jeannette affirmed she could direct them, using simple cues like right or left. While officers raced back to San Jose to track down the location, another initiated calls to every pizza place nearby, seeking to match the phone number to an address. Soon the net tightened. Jeannette trembled with cautious hope in the back of the patrol car. Summoning courage, she stood and exclaimed loudly that they had found it. Minutes later, confirmation arrived from the pizza parlor. Randall authorized a tactical raid, deploying SWAT and K-9 units to storm the suspect's home. Armed with Jeannette's detailed layout, the team entered the house, locating David Montiel Cruz hiding in the attic. He resisted arrest and threatened officers, forcing the release of police dogs. The suspect suffered multiple injuries before being subdued and escorted outside. Inside, investigators uncovered the evidence-laden pizza box hidden beneath the bed. Police revealed little about Cruz's past but confirmed his arrest early that morning. The district attorney charged him with 9 felonies, including sexual assault, burglary, forcible lewd acts, rape, battery, and special circumstances. Following the arrest, Rosalia and Paul were notified, but emergency responders prioritized getting Jeannette to the ER for treatment of her untreated stab wounds. Rosalia and Paul trailed the ambulance, reuniting with Jeannette once she was stabilized. Jeannette recalled the hospital scene vividly, the tests, the door opening, and seeing her mother's face, so altered that she barely recognized her. The path forward was anything but easy for Jeannette Tamayo, but her resilience had already begun to shine through the darkest chapters of her life. For years, Jeannette Tamayo grappled with her pain and isolation. She rarely left her home, paralyzed by a deep fear of men and the outside world. But at 15, after 6 long years of therapy, something shifted within her. Determined to confront her fears, she took a bold step forward. 12 years later, television producers orchestrated a reunion between Jeannette and Detective Heather Randall, the very officer who, with the unexpected insight of a clever 9-year-old, had brought David Montiel Cruz's violent spree to an end. In that reunion, Jeannette expressed her gratitude, acknowledging she never had the chance to properly thank those who saved her. Her words carried the weight of survival and healing. Detective Randall reminded her of her strength and bravery, emphasizing that the horrors she endured were never her fault. Those words underscored the resilience Jeannette embodied, the courage that had carried her through. Though her trauma cast a long shadow over her childhood, Jeannette refused to let it define her adult life. Inspired by Heather Randall, she set her sights on law enforcement, aspiring to serve her community as a detective. Beyond that ambition, Jeannette sought to become a voice for the missing, and for every victim silenced by violence. She believed that no matter the obstacles, everyone harbors a story and the strength to persevere. In a powerful declaration, Jeannette revealed how she transformed her fear into courage and reclaimed her family. Her journey embodied the relentless fight for survival and justice. Meanwhile, on July 14, 1995, 13-year-old Thaddeus Phillips arrived in Baraboo, Wisconsin. Merely 2 weeks later, he was discovered on a neighbor's bed, his body battered with nearly every bone fractured or crushed, a grim testament to the violence lurking in the shadows.